What's up, guys? I'm me, Jay. I'm joined by Kendall again. Thank you all for checking out our final video, wrapping up the positional rankings for the 2021 NBA draft class. We're doing the big men. These are the fives, Kendall. And we'll come to the center position. We've talked about it a lot in just kind of over the years on our YouTube channel about how the center position has changed over the course of time. Long gone are the players you're looking for as linchpins on your block to throw the ball down to and get buckets. Now these guys are more asked to be in pick and roll action, more asked to be in rim running situations, and now also asked to be have that stretchability and ability to space the floor and stretch out the defense. So when it comes to finding five men, maybe what you were looking for even 5 years ago is different than what you're looking for now. So that should make for an interesting discussion on where we see these group of bigs for this year's draft, Kendall.
Yeah. This is an interesting group of centers. Probably the weakest spot in this draft, but I always say the center position is an excellent value play because a lot of these guys on this list aren't going to go in the lottery, and you may only have one center end up in the lottery in this draft. If most three, could be four, but it's very volatile. You have 3 or 4 guys that could go in the lottery or could go outside of the lottery. But yeah, no, there's great value. There are guys in the second round that could wind up being steals. We see it every year. Your Mitchell Robinsons, your Hassan Whitesides, your DeAndre Jordans, Robert Williams. These guys that don't get drafted in the top 10 that wind up being really high-level NBA centers. So Rudy Gobert is another guy. So Nikola Jokic, obviously. So, yeah, no, I mean, this is a very, very interesting spot in this draft. And, I think there are some good players and some guys that may fit that description of guys that could be the next DeAndre Jordan or Hassan Whiteside.
Interesting. So let's get to it and let's talk about our top 5. So I'll go first here. And number 5 is a guy that I've really been high on really since last season and really early in the draft process when he announced he was entering the draft. JERICHO Sims, a guy who was, I think, unknown before this last senior season or junior season rather, and not kind of unheralded when it came to the draft rankings. Now comes in at 5 as we do this video closing into the NBA draft date. He's a little bit of an older prospect. I get that. He's 22 years old. He measured just right at 6'10", which was a great ranking for him. I think some people thought he was shorter, but still not necessarily your 7-footer. But I just think, again, what we're asking bigs to do in this league, the tangible things that you see from his game, they're already there. First of all, physical frame, 245 pounds, just chiseled out of stone, just a very kind of barrel-chested, broad-shouldered kind of guy, so he's going to be able to deal with the NBA physicality. As we talked about in our last video, you're talking about guys being effective in pick and roll. There was almost literally maybe no one better than JERICHO Sims. Probably no one better in this draft than JERICHO Sims. He ranked in the 97th percentile as the roll man in pick and roll situations. He shot 96% from the field on those shots. He had a points per possession of 1.556, which is just not even, it doesn't even look real when you see a number like that. But it wasn't just the pick and roll numbers offensively that were intriguing for me. As a cutter, he was in the 70th percentile. In offensive putbacks, he was the 73rd percentile. So he has some versatility. He's kind of a guy who is a high percentage kind of player. He's not going to do any post-up. He's not going to do any isolation. He's a catch and dunk kind of guy. But his athleticism is extremely high for a 5-man, and he's an excellent guy in terms of running the floor. And then I think maybe the most exciting thing outside of the pick and roll running ability is the switchability on defense. I mean, these NBA playoffs showed your 5-men are going to be found on islands against guys who are really skilled on the perimeter, whether it be a point guard like a Trae Young or a wing like a Devin Booker, and it's impossible to just stick your 2-man on him and think that going through all these pick and rolls, you're never going to get switched. That guy has to be competent. And JERICHO Sims was exceptional at the combine in those situations. And the tape showed he was exceptional at Texas, switching on to guards defensively. So The defensive potential is super high. He wasn't necessarily the greatest shot blocker, but people shot only 29% from the field around the basket when he was guarded by them. So even if he's not blocking their shot, his athleticism and strength still causing issues. So JERICHO Sims comes in at number 5 for me. He almost cracked the top 4 because he's rising that high for me. I really think he's a good player. Number 4, guy I listed in our sleepers video, Charles Bassey, comes in at number 4. I told you he reminds me a lot of Clint Capella, another guy who runs the floor exceptionally well. He's got good feet, very agile, very strong at finishing around the basket, and the shot blocking ability is exceptional. You know, the guy averaged 3.1 blocks per game. He recovers well. He's strong guarding guys in the post. Not too many things really to dislike. I know he's trying to get that 3-point shot. Sometimes it could look kind of haywire, but I think with NBA work, maybe he does give you some ability at a stretch 5. I don't think he's somebody you're asking to shoot 3 or 4 threes a game, but maybe in a pinch where he's wide open, if he can kind of just make the defense honest with that shot, he's showing that there's a potential there too. He's got to cut down the turnovers. Some of the stuff we've seen in terms of sloppiness, dealing with double teams and pick and roll, and in post-up situations. I don't think that, even though he's pretty proficient as a scorer in the post, I don't think they're going to really ask him to do much post-ups in the NBA. So I'm not as concerned about that.
He's certainly not going to get double teamed.
Right, exactly.
Playing at Western Kentucky.
Exactly. The double teams, I don't think he'll have to really worry about. So, but nonetheless, sloppiness offensively, turnovers were probably one of the major concerns I had. You got to take care of the ball. But if he's able to do that, I think as a second-round guy, he could definitely be a player who sticks in the NBA. He comes in at number 4. Number 3, a guy who really I didn't pay much attention to in the college season because he had other more high-profile players on his team. The draft process has kind of made me really have to really kind of reevaluate his game. But Isaiah Jackson does come in at number 3 for me as a center. The defense, the shot blocking is really what excites me with him. Also, the age. You're looking at a guy who's 19 years old with the defensive potential and upside that he has there. He's not as strong as JERICHO Sims, but similar to JERICHO Sims, where he's your catch and dunk kind of player. He's not doing much else offensively, but his athleticism is just like elite when it comes to 5-man, ability to run the floor, ability to catch lobs, and again, to protect the rim is exceptional. I think he's going to be good on switches. Just his overall defense, he was in the 91st percentile. Players shot only 28% against him, and again, it's like, what are you asking for your bigs nowadays? And he, even though he might not have the quote unquote greatest bag as an offensive player, he has enough as a rim runner, as a catch and dunk guy, and the defense is just so high end that he ended up rising really high on my board, and I ended up landing him at number 3. 2. Alperen Sengun comes at number 2. In any other draft where there isn't a potentially generational big man, he would be number 1. I really like this guy's game. Advanced scorer in the post, a underrated terror of a finisher at the basket. He can just posterize people after him. I love his aggression. I love his physicality around the basket. The footwork in the post. Again, I know post-ups are not in vogue, but he seems to be one of those guys to me where he's so good, I would draw a post plays for him because I think he could get me high percentage shots. He has a high basketball IQ. He's a very good passer. He's also really good at drawing fouls. I wrote here he led the Turkish League in free throw attempts this year. That's also very impressive for a guy who's so young. He's only 18 years old right now, and he's a very good free throw shooter. So even though stretchability might be questionable, the free throw shooting suggests that maybe he will be able to be a stretch 5. And just a great offensive rebounder. Probably the best attacker of the offensive glass in this draft. Defense is a problem. You know, I talk about being on the island against these guards. He would scare me a little bit. He's a little stiff in his stance. And then also he also measures out right at 6'10". That's not great size for a center. It's passable, and I think he needed it. But I probably would have preferred a 6'11", 7 foot. You know, we know he's not 7 foot. But he could have got 6'11". I would have been a little more excited. We did see some guys in the Turkish League who were a little stronger have their way with him. The 7 foot guys. Will that be a problem in the NBA? We'll see. But the kid's he's so tough and he's so strong for his age. Like I'm gonna give him a chance that he'll be fine. And even with those sharks of the NBA in the NBA paint. So I love Alperen Sengun. He really has become one of my favorite players in this draft. He comes in number 2 for me from Turkey. Number 1, kind of a no-brainer, Evan Mobley. He's going to turn 20 by the NBA draft. I mentioned he reminds me a lot of Chris Bosh. Again, what are you asking for from your bigs? You got to protect the rim. This guy, probably the best shot blocker in the draft. You got to be able to guard weak side. Again, he's able to do that. You got to be able to switch off on guards. His ability to switch on guards and keep them in front of him or funnel them to bad shots or to use his length to alter shots is exceptional. And that's just the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side is an A-plus player. The offensive side, there's a lot to like too. He's a very good passer. He's a high IQ player. He's could be a ferocious finisher at the rim, something you need from a big. Shooting, hit or miss sometimes, but I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. He's a really good player. The only reason why Evan Mobley is not the number 1 pick in the draft is just because centers aren't as valued anymore. They're like running backs in the NFL. So if this was a different era, he would be the number 1 pick, and we would maybe, because Cade is so unique, we'd have a discussion about it. But he would. He's not even in the discussion right now. He would be squarely in the discussion. Even 5 years ago, definitely 10 or 15 years ago. The era is different. The way the game is played is different. So his impact may be different. So it doesn't necessarily, for some people, I think, maybe look at them and say that's definitely a guy who's a number 1 pick. But Mobley is a truly, great prospect and has a chance to be a great player in this league.
Yeah, no, you have an interesting list. A lot of similar names, a few differences, but I'll get it started off at number 5. A guy that you mentioned, EJ, Charles Bassey, out of Western Kentucky. Did the Mitchell Robinson route. Not exactly Mitchell Robinson route. He never stepped foot on campus.
Right.
Yeah, he was there for one day, but with Western Kentucky, and has had a very interesting career, because I don't say he's been disappointing, because he's been excellent for them, but was never able to get them over the hump and into the NCAA tournament. They've been in one of the best mid-major programs in the country, and it's been in large part because of Charles Bassey, but again, hasn't had that real exposure. But when you watch Charles Bassey and when you watch the Western Kentucky, obviously the guy is an elite level big man prospect. By elite I mean first round pick, not for Western Kentucky. He's an elite level. He's not a normal Western Kentucky big.
Yeah.
Obviously 5-star top 10 player coming out of high school. The rim protection is serious. I mean, he's an excellent shot blocker.
Yeah.
Really quick off his feet, really long arms, big hands. Can block with either hand. He's a lob threat. You can play in the post. The issues lie in, I think a lot of it was his situation at Western Kentucky. When you're talking about him doing a little too much offensively, him not being able to, not being great out of the post. Some of his numbers are going to be a little skewed in terms of assist rates and things of that nature when he's not playing with the best teammates. And, the turnovers will happen with double teams when, you're not going to be able to double team if he's on a better team. So,
right.
I think he's a first round talent. I think he got put in a tough situation. But I think with time, Charles Bassey, not even with time, I think he's going to come in fairly early and be able to contribute. But we talked about him in our sleepers video. He's a guy that, is a prime target to be your Clint Capella, your DeAndre Jordan, your Hassan Whiteside, your guy that gets drafted late first round or second round that ends up being a starting center. Mm-hmm. At number 4, I'm going with another guy that I think will go late first round, second round, that I think will also be really good. I'm going to go with DAYRON Sharpe, a kid out of North Carolina who really, really interesting pedigree. Obviously played on that, all-time great Montverde Academy team with Cade Cunningham, Moses Moody, Scotty Barnes. He's kind of the forgotten man of that bunch. Mm-hmm. But coming from that team, going to North Carolina as a McDonald All-American, and going to a team with a loaded front court with Garrison Brooks, Armando Bacot. They brought in Walker Kessler alongside DAYRON Sharpe. And, for him to, I think about the cream of the crop, like for him to be the best big out of all those guys, all American potential guys, is extremely impressive for a 19-year-old guy who was really, really unheralded, not unheralded because he was All-American, but was not, he didn't average 30 and 10 in college or in high school. It wasn't super dominant. He was what he was in North Carolina, which was an incredible rebounder, a high level passer. And to me, like when I compare him to a guy that we've seen recently, he's a little bit of Isaiah Stewart in his game with the ability to attack the glass.
Yeah, I've seen that comparison a lot. I see that a little bit.
Just plays strong, just plays big. I don't think he's as skilled as Isaiah Stewart, but he has some of the same abilities in the post. The big question is just going to be, I don't know if he's ever going to be a shooter, and how impactful defensively will he ever be? I think with his size, and I think with the NBA center is not, while the center position is getting stronger, I think we have to acknowledge that at some point. It's still not a huge issue for him defensively. So I that's a guy I'm willing to bet on that will be able to help the team. Also, a little bit of Boogie Cousins, not prime Boogie Cousins, but like Boogie Cousins now, which
like Warriors Boogie Cousins.
Yeah, Warriors Clippers Boogie Cousins. So. I mean, I think he's going to be a really good rotation big for an NBA team at some point. Maybe not right away, but in a few years. At number 3, I'm going to Texas. I'm going with Kai Jones, a guy we talked about in our power forwards video that EJ had listed as a power forward. Yeah, I mean, the guy is an extremely, extremely intriguing prospect. What he can do for a guy his size is not normal. His twitch, his quickness, his athleticism is extremely intriguing. His ability to run in transition makes him, a really, really valuable piece, especially for teams that like to go, which play at a fast pace, which is pretty much every team in the league nowadays. So yeah, I mean, and of course his shooting ability. When you have a guy that size that can shoot the ball, could also protect the rim, and I don't know, he's just and again run in transition. He's kind of a perfect fit of a lot of different things. I guess the question is going to be, does he do any of those things, particularly the offensive part of his game? Does he do those things, and really defensively as well? He's good at a lot of different things, but is he impactful enough to be a real star, or is he a JaVale McGee almost?
Yeah, exactly.
Like JaVale McGee has a lot of great traits, but he's never been able to put it all together into he's an Olympian, 3-time champion.
Yeah. I mean, good NBA career.
Yeah, good NBA career.
But there was the physical traits he has suggest that he could have maybe been an all-star. I know some people will laugh at that, but I think people who know ball know his athleticism, his ability to run and protect the rim and be a lob threat. Whatever Tyson Chandler career was, you kind of feel like that could have been JaVale McGee.
Yeah. So that's the question I think people are going to have about Kai Jones. He's a guy I'm willing to bet on, especially if I have a really good player development system. But those are the questions. But the upside is as high as almost anybody in this draft. Outside of guys in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
At number 2, we're gonna agree. I got Alperen Sengun, who is I think close to the guy at number 1. Not like really not a debate, but it's close to a debate. I think what he does for you offensively, his production in the Turkish league, which was astronomical. We talked about it in our international comparisons video, but playing for Besiktas. He was the best. He was the MVP of the Turkish league, best player in Turkey. 20 and 10. I mean, the guy is super productive. He has tremendous skill in the post. He's got the you mentioned the tenacity on the boards. Really, really tough player. And I feel like there are concerns defensively, no doubt. And you talk about his lack of size, but I think he's a strong kid, and he's also a tough player. So I don't think he's a guy that's going to be a pushover defensively. I mentioned, I think there's a little bit of Pau Gasol in his game. Another guy that I've thought about as I've watched is almost like a young Kevin Love is another one that I've thought about, like a UCLA Kevin Love. Is how I look at Alperen Sengun as well. And I mean, that's the kind of offensive player I think he is. Right. I think he's a guy that could legitimately average 20 points at some point in his NBA career. And if that happens nowadays, if you have a big that can get you 20 points a night, that guy's a guy you should draft in the top 10. So, no doubt, super high on Alperen Sengun. At number 1, I've got Evan Mobley. No surprise, no shock. This is probably again, I think it's closer than the experts think at number 1, but besides maybe Jalen Green, I think this is the easiest guy to slot at number 1 in his position. He's got, like you said, everything that you'd want your big to do nowadays. He can do. I'm not as high on Evan Mobley as most people. But I don't want the comparisons of how does Evan Mobley stack up with James Wiseman? How does Evan Mobley stack up with DeAndre Ayton? To take away from how does Evan Mobley stack up with Kai Jones? How does he stack up?
Those guys in this draft. Yeah, exactly.
We do that with every number 1 pick center or every top center in the draft. We compare him to David Robinson. How does he compare to Patrick Ewing? At the end of the day, he's the best big man in this draft, no doubt. Right. What he can do offensively, again, if we're comparing him to DeAndre Ayton or someone like that, he's not going to be, I think, the consistent, post guy, the guy that you want to get a million paint touches a night.
But again, we just watched the NBA Finals. How many post-ups are the Suns running for even DeAndre Ayton? Not many.
100%. Yeah, exactly. He's not Al Jefferson, but what he's going to give you is a guy who can, obviously is going to be a lob threat. I think when he fills out, is going to be a little better in the post, but also will be an excellent shooter as his career progresses. He's got already the framework of a really good shooter.
Yeah.
And when you mention defensively, his length, his lateral quickness, and his shot blocking instincts. That's what I love about Evan Mobley, is that a lot of guys have the ability to block shots because of their size, their length, this and that, but not everybody knows how to do it. Not everybody is good at it. And I think Evan Mobley, like James Wiseman, to me, isn't an excellent shot blocker. It's unfortunate because he's got all the traits, but I think instinctually he still has a ways to go.
Yeah, shot blocking is a skill. I mean, having a 40-inch vertical helps, but it is a skill set. It is a twitch. It is.
And Isaiah Jackson, the guy you mentioned, who's not on my list. I mean, he's another guy that also rates and grades out as a elite shot blocker.
Yeah, he has that. He has that skill.
Yeah, he's got that it factor when it comes to protecting the rim. Yeah, but I think Evan Mobley's got it, man. I mean, I worry about his core strength initially, but I don't worry a ton because, who is that really hurting me against? It's hurting me against Joel Embiid. It's hurting me against,
right.
Nikola Jokic. Like, it's hurting me against 5-6 guys.
Maybe Nurkic.
Yeah, Nurkic, like maybe a Cantor for 10 minutes in a game, like.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not hurting me.
Dwight Howard comes in and gets his 4 fouls.
Yeah. Now the question I also wonder is, in those situations, can he also play the 4? And I think he can, with his ability to shoot the basketball and his ability to run in transition, but then also guard on the perimeter at times. I think he's a guy that 100% get minutes at the 4 as well, which makes him very valuable. And I think, to me, that's what makes him a special prospect, is his versatility at that 4-5 spot. I've seen a lot of people comp him to Pau Gasol, and that's, that is similar between the two, is their ability to play both big spots.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that's interesting about Mobley is you mentioned maybe his ability to play the 4. I agree. I compared him to Chris Bosh, a guy who played a lot of 4 in his career. And and what's interesting is I thought a lot of times USC, there were times because of him and his brother and both of their versatility where I thought Isaiah was playing a more 5-man role in their offense, and Evan was playing more of a 4-man. So I think we even saw some of that potential even at USC. It's like a random question, and I think it's important to ask only because I think we asked if we're any good defensive player in this position, and even though Mobley doesn't seem to get this question, I'm going to ask it. Is there any concern that he had these great defensive numbers, but he also played a lot of zone? Is there any part of this that
100%
to you? Or, I mean, clearly none of us do. But
that's all.
I don't want to say fake. Neither of us think it's fake. I'm saying, is there anything to that to where this high ceiling and really high floor defensive we see from him, is that being skewed because we saw him sit in the paint? And he did a great job manning the paint, but he was playing in the middle of a 2-3 zone. Let's just call it what it was.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not something that you see nowadays as much. Mm-hmm. A lot of the best bigs tend to not go to teams that run 2-3 zones, but we've seen it,
which I don't understand, by the way.
Time again.
I feel like I don't understand that, by the way. I think that
it's a great way to.
It's a great way to either hide you, or you could look great if you're a guy like Evan Mobley playing in the middle of the zone. Funneling everything.
There are more reasons why guys don't go to Syracuse than the 2-3 zone.
Fair enough.
Ask Isaiah Stewart. But what I will say is what we've seen historically, is that guys that we thought were incredible defenders. I think about a guy like Fab Melo coming out of Syracuse.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to Fab Melo. But, a lot of people thought that he was a transcendent defensive prospect. And he got to the Celtics and was lost defensively. Now, I don't think Evan Mobley is going to have those problems from a defensive awareness or defensive IQ standpoint. But, again, the strength, the physicality part of the game, he's an excellent weak side shot blocker. And, I mean, obviously, he's an excellent post defender against guys that are much smaller. But, in the NBA, when he's going up against bigger guys, how will he stack up? It's going to be the question. If he's playing the 4, that's not as big of an issue. Because then he can rely more on weak shot blocking and not necessarily post defense.
Real quickly, you didn't have Isaiah Jackson in your top 5. Was he close?
It's very controversial.
Was he close? Are you much lower on him than other people? What are your thoughts on Isaiah Jackson?
I would say all of the above. I think he was close. I think the difference between him and Sharpe and Bassey is very close. I think all of those guys will go late first round, early second. Jackson will probably go the highest of the 3. And to me, I'm not as high on Isaiah Jackson. I think what he does defensively is great as a shot blocker, but he's another guy similar to Evan Mobley, not strong at all.
Yeah, he's 206 pounds.
Yeah, he's 206 pounds, man. And again, you talk about transcendent defensive prospects who struggled a little bit. This guy is still an excellent defensive player, but I think about Nerlens Noel. Nerlens Noel is he's an excellent defense player, but people thought he was Dikembe Mutombo coming out of Kentucky. And, I think some of his slight frame, especially initially in his career, besides the injuries, also kind of hurt him. It hurt him probably even more so offensively. But I wonder about Isaiah Jackson's upside, given his physical profile. But then also just, doesn't have much offensively. Not a whole lot of game, not a whole. He can't really shoot. Look. I mean, he's an excellent athlete. You know, he's gonna be a lob threat. When you talk about guard play, the guard play at Kentucky, you know, left a lot to be desired at times.
Oh yes.
So definitely. Yeah, so for Isaiah Jackson, you know, that wasn't ideal for him. So there are things to be said about all these guys. I think he's certainly in that conversation. I thought about Philip Petrusev, who was also close to me. I have him behind Isaiah Jackson, but really, I mean, he's a really, really interesting prospect. The numbers are incredible. If you're asking who can be like the Nikola Jokic in this draft, I'm not saying he's ever going to be an MVP, but just, you know, or you're Nurkic, you're Adriatic League guy who we kind of don't think too hard about because he's not playing in the EuroLeague or he's not playing in college. Petrusev could come in as a second-round pick and, you know, really, really help an NBA team. And Mamoukelishvili, Sandro Mamoukelishvili is another guy that I looked at, but I just worry a little bit about his what are the things he does well. Besides
he's an excellent ball handler and passer.
Yeah. I mean, his ability to handle is incredible, but at the 5 spot, that's not.
How much do you value that?
Yeah, how much do I value that? Not to say that you know, it's not impressive or it's not important, but you know, the other things that he may struggle at are the things that, you know, are going to be way more valuable, which is part of the reason why you considered him more of a 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I have him as a 4 because of those reasons. Interesting on Petrusev, I also have him as a 4. Interesting you have him below Jackson. If I didn't have DAYRON Sharpe in my top 5, Sharpe is right up there with Sengun when it comes to attacking the glass offensively. I mean, he's
when you said that in my head, I was like, DAYRON Sharpe.
DAYRON Sharpe has a beef, right? Yeah, I mean,
it's hard to decipher college and EuroLeague. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
A little easier to rebound against Virginia Tech than it is against, you know, Real Madrid.
Right. You know, so I get that. Sharpe is though he's also just an animal on the offensive glass. So I want to give him that respect. I want to make sure I put that out. I think my problem with Sharpe is I think he may get killed against little guards in pick and roll. I mean, that to me is a major concern. And similar to what you talk about with Mamu, I also wonder, besides what he does on the offensive glass, is what he does. Do I care as much about that anymore? Again, I feel like this was maybe 5-6 years ago. He's definitely a first-round talent for me. He may be drafted first round this year, but right now
Udoka
I see him more of a second
was first-round pick last year, EJ.
Who?
Udoka Azubuike was first-round pick.
That's true. So look, I mean, he definitely could be a first-round pick, but I think I grade him more as a second-round grade because I think there's a chance he may have problems defensively, and while I love the way he attacks offensive glass and his offensive game, really overall, I'm not sure if what he does translates because he doesn't stretch the floor at all. He took 2 threes all season at North Carolina, yes. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. In terms of another guy that just missed the cut for me was Neemias Queta from Utah State. I really like this kid, man. I think he's really being underrated. Excellent shot blocker, excellent lob threat, and the guy is just a mountain of a man. I mean, he's just gigantic, and not gigantic and slow and like bumbling. Like he's very agile, very quick. I know he had a knee injury in his college career that may have be something to do with why people aren't as high on him, but I don't understand any other reason why you wouldn't be high on him based on the tape. Maybe there's a medical red flag there, but he played in the combine. He looked great at the combine. I don't see anything wrong with him. So I would definitely take a flyer on him if I was looking for a big and there weren't a lot left. Maybe late first round. Definitely would take a flyer on him in the second round. So yeah, those were my guys. I really didn't even rank much guys besides those guys that we listed. Center position is just not deep. There's not. And also, I just think they're like, because of what we now know what centers are, there are just not a lot of guys I'm like looking to play at the 5 even. So So it was kind of
Right.
a weird. It was kind of a weird situation. A lot of other guys that aren't guys that I think are draftable.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, no doubt.
yeah. I mean, one guy I will say who I didn't mention in the power forward ranking, who I think will get 4-time. I wanted it's a weird shout out, but I want to shout him out here. The kid from Belgium, Vrens. I'm not even trying to pronounce his last name, but and it's no disrespect to him, it's just it's a pretty tough name to pronounce, but he's also a very
Good
intriguing
luck,
big
Mark
man.
Tatum.
He's a very intriguing big man. I think he's a 4, not necessarily a 5, and then some people have him as a 3. I see some people have him as a 2. He's become a very interesting player.
Yeah.
I mean, he reminds me like a Lamar Odom. He's a 6'10", like wing, like forward. Like he can handle, he can bring the ball up the floor, he can play some point forward. I think he's going to be an interesting player to look at. He's kind of becoming another player in vogue in the days leading up to the draft. Where he goes will be fascinating as well.
Where did you have? First of all, I'm gonna try the name. I'm gonna say it's Ren's Blazenberg.
Blazenberg. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. I watch. We watch enough soccer, EJ. You're the big Belgium guy anyway. Shout out Lukaku. Where do you have Luka Garza? Was Luka Garza in the vicinity at all? You talk about draft. Not have a draftable grade on Luka Garza.
He would have been in that. He would have been probably behind all the guys I listed. Like he would have been 8.
Right.
But he's not. For me, I guess he wouldn't have been that discernible from any of the other guys that I didn't put in this ring. I mean, look, Garza is offensively, he has some skills. We know he can shoot. We know he's proficient in the post. But again, it's what am I asking my big men to do? Okay, I know he can shoot. That's good. Okay, but this excellent. And I don't even think I'll be honest. I think that his post proficiency is a little overrated. I think when I saw him against bigger, stronger, more athletic guys, he wasn't as proficient. That scares me a lot because that's supposed to be the thing he does. So like that was a little concerning. And then I don't think he's an NBA defender. Like I really, to me, and again, it's what am I? Again, maybe 10 years ago, I'd find a way to get him on the court, but like with the way teams play now, I just think he kills you if you put him out there defensively. And
it scared me.
That was why for me, I didn't have. He's like a late second round guy. He's not a guy I'm really targeting within the first 50 picks.
It scared me when I saw him. I mean, look, numerically, statistically, the guy is, he grades out as one of the best bigs in this draft. But, it scared me at the combine when he looked like he lost like 40 pounds. Yeah, he was talking about, I know I got to defend on the NBA level and I got to slim down. But I wonder, how is that going to affect his offensive game? Like what he's good at is in part because of his strength.
And also for me, a little bit, and I'll be honest, for me, a little bit, I say, okay, you were at Iowa for 4 years. Why now are you losing all this weight?
Yeah, yeah.
You haven't been able to guard anybody.
Well, it's hard for me to say that when he was so good, but you're right.
But he hasn't been able to guard anybody for 4 years. Like, let's keep it 100. Like, he wasn't a good defender at Iowa. So, like, he could have helped his team by getting in better shape in college. Like,
but that goes to my point is that I could see why he didn't because I think him losing 40 pounds makes him a worse offensive player. And that is what hurts. That's what scares me because if he's not giving you, if he's not Enes Kanter offensively where he's like, yeah, but this guy's, you give him a couple of touches and he can get you buckets. If he can't do that, then where does he help you? Again, maybe it's the shooting, but I don't think the shooting is like, he's not Matthew Hurt where he's an elite shooter. So, it's tough. I tend to agree. Do you look at Isaiah Todd as a 4 or a 5? 4. And I look at him as a 4 as well.
He was in that 7 to 8 range, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's a guy that could be considered a 5. We didn't talk about him at all in the 4 video, but I think early in his career, I think he's a 5.
Okay.
Because he's skinny, so that's gonna hurt him.
That's why I'm at 4. Yeah.
Why the second round prospect, but I don't know if he's got the skills right now to play the 4.
I love his shooting.
He can shoot it.
That's what put me.
He shot it well
with
with Ignite.
Yeah, he did.
You know, that surprised a lot of people because, but that's, it's like the Greg Brown thing we talked about in the last video, where like him thinking he's a wing in high school, you know, improved his shooting. You know,
Right.
he took a lot of terrible shots playing at Word of God in North Carolina. People were like really out on him as a prospect. But he got to Ignite, and all of a sudden he figured out how to shoot. So, you know, I know Brian Shaw is really high on Isaiah Todd.
Yeah, I like him. I really do. I mean, yeah, I know we didn't talk about him, but I like him. I think that he's definitely a second round guy. I would definitely take a flyer on because I think the shooting is real, and he's so young. I think that there's an offensive
good athlete.
Yeah, he's a really good athlete. I mean, there's an offensive, and he's a pretty good passer too. I think there's an offensive bag there. Like, I mean,
He's just raw.
Yeah, he's just super raw, and it's just a matter of, you know, are you able to get, you know, the most out of him? But I think he's a good player. You know, so but yeah, man, look, this was a fun exercise going through all the positions this year. Thank you guys for checking out this draft video. Of course, if you like this video, make sure you give us a like and leave a comment in the comment section of where do you see these bigs and where they rank. Leave us a comment in the comment section. As I said in the last video, we're hoping to do a mailbag with your questions soon in an upcoming video on the NBA draft. So make sure you guys, if you have a question you want us to address in our mailbag video, leave a comment in the comment section, or of course you can email us. Our email address is newgenerationmedia@journalism.com. Excuse me, at gmail.com. newgenerationmedia@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much again for checking this out. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.